So tonight, this presentation is going to be on dollars and cents, debt to repayment. Now, how do you start the process? The very first process in applying for any type of aid at the university is to complete the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. This application is typically available October 1st of each year. You can start the process at that time. We do ask that you, whenever, as soon as possible, you can start. Even if you're not going to take out loans for the school year, or if you feel that you do not qualify, please still complete the FAFSA. That's the only way that the university can actually gather any type of financial data on you. So get that done each year. Now, how much can you borrow? I'm going to start with the professional programs, and I'm going to work down so that you can see there's a difference in the amount that you can borrow. The professional program, the unsubsidized loan for dental and medicine, the maximum $47,166, pharmacy $34,389. The graduate plus is up to the budget maximum. And what that means is whatever budget the university sets for the year, you can borrow up to that amount of that budget to take care of your expenses for the year. There's a health profession student loan. The amounts for this particular program varies from year to year. It is available to dental, medical, and pharmacy students. It can range anywhere from $5,000 up to approximately $40,000, depending on what's been allocated to schools each year. And then there's the private or alternative loans. And this is up to the budget maximum as well. This one has variable interest rates. And you have two avenues that you can pursue with this. You can choose a variable rate if you want to watch the market. Rates are very low now. Or you can choose a fixed rate. And if you choose a fixed rate, you will probably see your rate somewhere in line with what the federal rates are. Now, for our graduate students, you can see the amount that you can borrow is completely different. The unsubsidized loan, $20,500. Students who enrolled in that health administration program, $34,389. Graduate plus, up to the budget maximum. This is across the board for all programs. And then your private or your alternative loans, again, that will be up to the budget maximum. Now, the undergraduate students, and if you could take a look at the interest rates, you can see that the interest rate is much lower for undergraduate students versus once you become a graduate or a professional student. So the rate here is 2.75. You would have seen that with graduate and professional students, your rate was 4.30 for the unsubsidized loan. Another difference that you see here is that our undergraduate students can borrow a subsidized and a unsubsidized award. And the difference with those terms, subsidized, no interest will accrue on those loans while you're in school, nor while you're in any type of deferred period. Whereas with the unsubsidized loan, interest begins from the date of disbursement. So the undergraduate students can tap into that where our graduate and our professional students cannot. The federal plus loan, again, that's up to the budget maximum here. The interest rate is the same across the board for the plus loans. And then the undergraduate students have a choice of doing the private or alternative loans as well. Now, there are aggregate maximums. So for a professional student, the maximum that you can borrow, $224,000 per school year. Out of that amount, only $65,500 can be with the subsidized loans if you did any borrowing as an undergraduate student. Graduate students, the maximum that can be borrowed is $138,500. Again, this one has a $65,000 maximum for subsidized loans. In the undergraduate programs, independent students, $57,500, $23,000 of that maximum can be a subsidized award. And then the dependent students, $31,000 with $23,000 maximum subsidized award. So when you move, each time you move up the ranks, so if you move up to a graduate level, what you borrowed as an undergraduate goes with you. Once you move up to a professional level, everything that you've borrowed underneath that goes along with it. So if all of that ties into your lifetime loan limit. Now, for repayment, the unsubsidized and the subsidized loans have a 6-month grace period. This grace period is calculated after you graduate, leave school, or drop below half time. You will get a 6-month grace period in which, once this grace period starts, no payment will be due during this period of the grace. You will be notified when your first payment is due. Now, we do exit counseling here at the university. And when you're going through your exit counseling, typically whoever your counselor is will actually inform you when you go through that. It'll show you exactly when payment will approximately be due. Typically, you'll get anywhere from a 30 to 45 day extension. So if you graduate in May, typically that will put you in November when payment is due. By the time that the government calculates your period for repayment, you're probably looking somewhere around mid-December. Typically, it comes right around the holiday time for payment. We're going to talk a little further on this as well, because right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we do have a couple things going on with the student loans, and I'm going to address that as well. Your Graduate Plus loans, the Graduate Plus loans are typically due at the moment 30 days after you borrow them. Now, you will notice if you ever requested a plus loan, the university will not process it unless you have a FAFSA on file. And the reason for that is that you must first take out your unsubsidized loan first, your subsidized or unsubsidized loan, before the school will grant you the ability to get the Graduate Plus. Because the Graduate Plus becomes due 30 days after it has fully been dispersed, which means payment would be due in the spring semester. However, if you have a subsidized or unsubsidized loan, then the payment attaches, your repayment attaches to that loan and becomes due 6 months along with your sub or your unsub loan. So you get the 6-month grace period attached with that. That's why if you ever request a Graduate Plus, or if your parents ever request a plus loans, it will not process until you complete the FAFSA. The Federal Plus loan, this is for undergraduate students as well. The difference between the two, Graduate Plus is for graduate and professional students. The Federal Plus is for undergraduate students. And again, exact same term. This is due when it is fully dispersed. Now, the only way that a parent can do the 6-month grace period is if they request it, if they complete a form stating that the student is in school full time, and they request an additional grace period, then they will be granted that. Health profession student loans, there's a 1-year grace period. Payment is not due until 1 year after you graduate or leave school. And then with private or alternative loans, it varies depending on the lender. Should have touched on those as I went through those. Now, accruing interest. I always like to show this video because basically when you start borrowing federal student loans, especially if you're borrowing the unsubsidized and the Graduate Plus loans, the interest accrues during the grace period and during the periods of deferment and forbearance. You can choose to pay the interest, or if you choose not to do anything at all, it will be added to the principal balance, in which we call capitalized. And once the loan capitalized, and just to give you an example, let's say you borrow $20,000 and the interest begins to accrue, you don't pay anything on it. Then once you enter repayment, let's say if $2,000 worth of interest accrued, your new loan amount then becomes $20,002. So it attaches to that amount that you actually borrow. Now, currently, while we're in a pandemic, interest on all federal student loans are not accruing interest. That's anything that you're borrowing now. That's anything that you have borrowed in the past. The federal government has typically put stop on all loans. There's a halt. There is no accruing interest. Once it starts up, it will start from that day. They will not go back and take all of that accrued interest and attach it. Basically, it's being forgiven at this period. And then once it's lifted, then that's when you would start paying interest on your student loans again. I did want to include here, because sometimes I get a lot of questions as to students are, well, where are we now? Or when does this end? So here are the dates in which everything was kind of enacted here. This all started in March 2020 when the pandemic started and the zero interest began. It was then extended through September the 20th. extended again through December 2020, extended again January the 31st, and now we're up to September the 30th, 2021. So everyone who has a federal student loan, no interest is accruing on your loans, and the interest will not accrue until September the 30th. If there's a change at that time, we will be notified, and we will notify our students as well that that it has been extended. But currently, right now, your interest is, you do not have to worry about any type of interest. Every loan is on a forbearance until September 30th, 2021. If you would like to check this, or if you're not sure, please log into studentaid.gov. Click on view details. You will see all of your loans listed there. When you click the loan, it will show you that you are enrolled in the emergency relief forbearance for COVID-19. So if you want to verify it, you can do so. Now, you have several options, and I highly suggest to you, please take advantage of these options. These are built into the program. They're there for you. You have a deferment option, which is a temporary suspension of student loan payments. The interest will continue to accrue on your unsubsidized Graduate Plus, your Federal Plus loans. No interest will accrue on your health profession student loans and your subsidized loans. A deferment is defined. So the federal government has already defined what these deferments are. If you decide to continue your education, that's an in-school deferment, you can receive that. If you decide to go into the military, join the Peace Corps, if you decide to start a family, we do have a deferment for starting a family, if you have a preschool age child. So for any of those reasons, any of the defined period, if you need the deferment, please take it. It does not reflect negative on your credit report. It is built into the program. Take advantage of it. Now, we also have a forbearance. A forbearance is a temporary suspension of your student loan payment. The interest will accrue on all types of loan under a forbearance. Forbearances are there if you do not meet any of the deferment options that are available. You can request the forbearance for 3 months up to 1 year, no questions asked. You simply log in, you state that you need a forbearance, you give the period, it's automatically done. You will get a retro email advising you your loan has been set up for forbearance. Right now, your deferment and your forbearance options are not needed simply because the federal government has already put you in an automatic forbearance. However, the twist to the forbearance that they've put you in is that you're not accruing any interest. So you have 0 interest, your loans are in a forbearance period, and no payment is due. Now, you have a loan servicer. All loans, even though you take out your loan with the U.S. Department of Education, the federal government actually use loan servicers to help them with these portfolios. So you're going to fall in one of these categories. All students are different. Basically, it's a system where they kind of just divvy out who the loan servicer will be. So you have a loan servicer. One feature of this is that the government tries to keep you with the same loan servicer. And these servicers came about, not sure if you're aware of the whole student loan umbrella, but there's FELP, and then there's direct loans. Direct loans typically took over. There's one umbrella now. The only place that you can borrow from is the U.S. Department of Education. All of the FELP lenders, which is the Family Federal Education Loan Program, that was in play for several years before direct loans took over, they realized that this was a huge undertaking for federal student loans across the United States. So they then used some of those servicers to help them manage the portfolios. And that's the reason that you have a loan servicer. They help manage the portfolio for the federal government. If you are not sure who your servicer is, please log into studentloans.gov and it will give you one of these names listed here. The health profession student loans that we provide here at the university, they are all serviced through Heartland ECSI. If you ever have a question about a health profession student loan, always call back to the school, to the financial aid office, because our treasury department here at the university actually holds those notes, and they will always be able to help you with that health profession student loan. Okay, now the repayment plans. If you do not select the plan once you leave the university, the government will automatically put you on the standard plan. And again, when you do your exit interviews before you leave the university, you have a choice at that time to make a decision on which of these plans you would like to choose. Please note that it is not etched in stone. When you exit the university, we're giving you an idea of what the plans may look like. We show you what your payment looks like under each of the plans. So when you exit out from the university, you'll be able to see what does a standard plan, a graduated, extended, income contingent. We show you all of those, what the payments will look like, and you make a decision. It is not etched in stone that you have to take that decision once you actually start repayment, because remember, you get a 6-month grace period. So these plans are interchangeable. You can change them at any time. There's not a penalty for doing so. There's one plan that you cannot change in and out of, but we'll talk about that one. But for all of these plans that are listed by the federal government, you have an option. You control your destiny. You can decide what you would like to do. If you do not choose a plan at all, you will be put on the standard plan. The standard plan is a 10-year plan. You pay this equal payments up to 10 years paid in full, unless you have a consolidated loan. We'll talk about that as well. If you consolidate, you can have up to 30 years to repay the loan, but it's even payments, exact same amount each year. Standard plan, 10 years. Your graduated plan, your payments will start out low. It will increase every 2 years. It can be anywhere from 10 to 30 years, depending on the amount that you requested or that you're in repayment for. The extended plan. The extended plan may be fixed or graduated. And again, you have a choice. You have up to 25 years on this plan. You must have more than $30,000 in outstanding direct loans in order to be on this loan. The monthly payments will be lower than the standard plan, but please know that once you start extending the years, you also start accruing more interest, so you'll pay more than you would pay under the standard plan. Now, the income contingent plan is the lesser of 20% of your discretionary income. The amount that you would pay on a repayment plan with a fixed payment of 12 years will be adjusted according to your income. You'll have up to 15 years on this plan. It will be recalculated each year based on your income, family size, and the total amount of your direct loan. If you are married, your spouse's income and debt will be considered only if you file a joint tax return. Any outstanding balance will be forgiven if you have not repaid this loan in full after 25 years. Please note that you will have to pay income tax on the form. They will send you a 1099 income. You would have to pay whatever has been forgiven with this. Your monthly payment is based on your annual income. The formula for determining the monthly payment can vary by lender, so it depends on who your servicer will be. You will definitely, it said it will usually, but you would definitely pay more over time than you would with the standard plan. Now, these are some of the newer plans, and these are options if you select the public service loan forgiveness. The revised pay as you earn, and I'm sorry here. The maximum monthly payment would be 10% of your discretionary income with the revised pay as you earn. Payments are recalculated each year, and it's based on your updated income and your family size. You will have to self-renew with this plan each year. If you're married, both incomes or loan debt will be considered. Whether you file jointly or not. So it doesn't matter if you file with your spouse or not, they will still be considered. Any outstanding balance will be forgiven after 20 or 25 years. And you may have to pay income tax on that amount once it's forgiven, depending on where you fall in the tax bracket. The pay as you earn, the PAYE, this is a maximally monthly payment will be 10% of your discretionary income. Payments are recalculated yearly. And please note, you have to apply for these each year because you can start out on one of these repayment plans. However, if you begin to earn more during your careers, you can quickly be moved off one of these plans onto one of the other standard plans. Any outstanding balance on your loan will be forgiven after 20 years. You must be a new borrower on or after October 1, 2007, and must have received a disbursement of a direct loan after October 1. And let me tell you what this means. So we do have students who, they're career students, they come back to school. If they have any loans prior to October 1, 2007, those loans would not be able to be included. However, with everything, there's a loophole. So if you have loans that are prior to that date, the only thing that you would have to do is to consolidate. Consolidate gives you a brand new loan. So once you consolidate, you then have a new loan as of the date that you consolidated. You must have high debt relative to your income in order to qualify as a PAYE. And you must have to pay income tax on any amount that is forgiven. Now we have our income-based repayment, our IBR. This one is 10 or 15% of your discretionary income. And this is all determined by the federal government when you complete the application. Payments are recalculated each year, and they're based on your income and your family size. If you're married, your spouse income and loan debt will be considered only if you file a joint tax return. Any outstanding balance on your loan will be forgiven if you haven't repaid your loan in full after 20 or 25 years. And it'll be determined based on your income when you start to apply for these plans. You must have high debt for this one as well, relative to your income. You will have to pay income tax on any amount of this loan that is forgiven. And your monthly payment will never be more than the 10-year standard payment plan. So you'll pay more over the lifetime of a 10-year standard plan. Now, there's two terms, and I do want to make sure that I explain the difference between the two, because sometimes students use these terms interchangeably, but they're completely different. Consolidation and refinance. Now, a consolidation will combine student loans into one single lender. It's a debt management tool. It is designed to give you one payment and to make monthly payments more manageable. So federal consolidation, you will keep all of your deferments, forbearances, and your repayment options. It's still a federal loan, so you keep all of the perks that go along with having a federal student loan. The federal government takes a weighted average of the interest rates and the loans that you have that are being consolidated, rounded up to the nearest 1/8%. And the interest rate is fixed for the life of the loan. The only thing that I want to say to students now, please be very cautious, especially right now with the consolidation loan. For the past, I want to say, maybe 7 to 8 years, consolidation has not been the best debt management tool simply because the interest rates were high. So I've given you an example here just to show you what consolidation does. Because remember, it takes a weighted average. So for an example, a 6.8% loan at $40,000, the government takes that, lumps it, gives it a weighted average. You multiply the interest rate by the loan amount, you get these points, 2720. They then take another interest rate by whatever that loan is, because remember, as you borrow each year, you got a different interest rate. So you take that interest rate, you multiply by the amount that you borrowed, and you get a weighted average. So then you add all of these up, you take the total amount that you've borrowed, your total weighted average, and then you divide your weighted average by your loan amount, and you get a percent. All consolidation loans you must add 1/8%. That's a congressional rule. So you then end up with an interest rate of 5.145%. So when you look at this, and again, when we do exit counseling, when your counselor does exit counseling with you, I do a lot with our students in dentistry. We take what the rate would be as a standalone, and then we take what the rate would be as a consolidation to see what works best for our students. Is it profitable for you to do a consolidation? And for the past several years, it has not been, simply because the interest rates were higher. Now that we've seen a drop in the interest rate, over a few more years, we will see that consolidation will come back as a strong debt management tool. Right now, it's not working for our students because our students were borrowing at a higher rate. And what you're looking at is if you're borrowing at these higher interest rates, and as you're borrowing at the highest interest rates and the weighted average, when you add the 1/8%, in most cases, do you want to take a consolidation loan that gives you a higher rate than what your actual rates are? And the answer to that would be no. So consolidation works when you want to drive the interest rates down. So when you have lower rates, you want to pull your other interest rates down. Now, refinancing right now is the way to go, simply because refinancing takes all of your student loans that you have, whatever rates that you have, and it gives you a new rate. The federal government allowed private lenders to do this simply because the interest rates were high. The government, Congress couldn't vote to get the rates down. So therefore, they elicit our outside companies to come in and help our student loan borrowers. So I've had some students who were able to consolidate. There is a credit check. So if you have good credit, I've seen some students consolidate their loans prior to the rates coming down as low as 2.2%. So excellent tool. That's the difference between the two. Just please keep in mind, consolidation takes a weighted average. It's going to take the rates that you have times the loan amount that you have and give it a component. It's going to give it that weighted average. When you refinance, when you go to a refinance company, they're going to take the total amount of loans that you have and give you a lower rate. So you could take possibly a 6.8% loan or 4.2% loan down to 2.2% if you have excellent credit. It is based on your credit. Now, loan forgiveness. We do have loan forgiveness programs that are available to our students. The income-driven plan, repayment forgiveness. Your repayment term may be 20 or 25 years. We looked at a couple of those. It really depends on what plan you choose, and then the remaining amount is forgiven. And the canceled amount, depending on which of the plans that you choose, may be taxable. This would be available in your income-based repayment, your pay-as-you-earn, your income contingent repayment, and your revised pay-as-you-earn. We have a public service loan forgiveness program. And with this program, if you work full-time for a government or a nonprofit organization, you may qualify for forgiveness for the entire remaining of the balance of your student loans once you've made 120 qualifying payments. And that's 10 years of payment. Let me give you, if you don't remember anything else about this presentation, please remember this. If you're interested in public service loan forgiveness, please make sure that when you enter repayment, you choose one of these income-based repayment plans. Because if you go on a 10-year standard plan and then there's no need for public service, if you do the extended plan, you will not qualify. This plan became, I want to say 2 years ago, it was when it first started, because you had to have 10 years of payment before you could get the public service loan forgiveness. When it first opened up, it was very heartbreaking because we had several students who actually signed up for the extended repayment plan, and then they applied for public service loan forgiveness and they were denied simply because they did not do one of the income-based repayment plans. The federal government was not forgiven. They did not waive any of the payments that were made. So please make sure, if you are interested in this public service loan forgiveness, make sure you're on one of these income-based repayment plans, because when it comes time to do your application, if you did not make your payments back on one of these plans, you will be denied for public service loan forgiveness. The Perkins loan discharge. The Perkins loan is no longer available. However, we do have several of our students who were able to borrow with the Perkins loan. And there are several categories that the federal government will actually forgive portions of your loan if you work in those areas for 5 consecutive years. So it could be teachers, firefighters, nurses, medical technicians, services for the disabled, faculty members at a tribal college or university, librarians, law enforcement, correction officers, attorneys, if they actually work as for the federal public or as a community defender, employee of a public or nonprofit or child family service agency. And please note that VCU is considered one of those areas. So if you were to depending on your, again, it depends on your salary because you would have to have a salary cap. But if you worked at Virginia Commonwealth University, we are a public institution in an urban setting. So you could qualify for discharge if you work at VCU. And then, and that's the same for our teacher loan forgiveness program. You could qualify for up to $17,500 in loan forgiveness if you teach full-time for 5 consecutive years in a low-income elementary, secondary school, or educational agency. And VCU does qualify as an educational agency. So if you're interested in teaching, this may be an area that you can pay back some of your loans and have some of it forgiven.
Karen, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions that are in the chat box?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to start with the second one because it pertains to this page. It says, thank you for giving this lecture. This has been very helpful. I'm interested in the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, and I want to get qualifying payments started as soon as possible. Can you clarify the following? From what I understand, I can't end grace period early unless I consolidate, which is the first question. And then alternatively, can I end the COVID forbearance program early to start qualifying payments as soon as possible after the grace period?
Okay. The answer to that would be no. You don't have a choice. The federal forbearance is hard coded into the U.S. Department of Education system, so it's automatically there. Can you make payments on your loan? The answer would be yes. I would probably say I understand the eagerness to get started with it, but you do not want to give up any type of perk that the federal government has given you. So once, I would say, once this period is over, you certainly can start. Even if you were to consolidate, because we are in a pandemic, and this is something that's completely new right now, because we are in a pandemic, even if you were to consolidate, you would still be hard coded into that federal forbearance. Everyone is included there. What you can do while we're in this forbearance, if you're interested, is pay on the student loan. If your goal is to pay the student loan off, then you can do that, and you will be paying it interest free because no interest is accruing. But there's no way around. They've hard coded this so that it applies to everyone across the board.
Thank you. And the other question is, do you pay a loan servicer to refinance your loans? Could you elaborate more on the steps in that process?
Okay. No, there's no payment for refinancing. These are federal student loans. You should make sure that you are refinancing with a federal student loan processor. There are several out there. You can go to the website. I know SoFi is one, SOFI. That's one of the bigger ones. That's the only one that comes to my mind right now because they're the ones that they actually started with the federal government. But I would, to make sure that you are doing a refinance with one of your federal processors, just simply go to refinance federal student loans. You'll get a huge list of them. Choose one of those lenders to refinance your loan. Did that answer the question?
I think so. We'll see if there's any more later on, but that's all we have for the moment. Thank you.
Okay. And for the person, Ella, who is interested in public service loan forgiveness, I always like to make sure that our students are aware of what the regulations are. Let me just be very clear with this. It's an excellent program, but I do want to make sure that you understand this. It is subject to appropriations, and what that means, it is subject to Congress having funds available to pay off your loans. So yes, right now, public service loan forgiveness is working and the government is paying off those student loans. However, just kind of like everything else, student loans at one time was one of those fields that the federal government never touched. It was almost a sacred entity. But now it is subject to any type of changes that comes down the pipe. With that being said, if you sign up for public service loan forgiveness, because remember, you have to be on a qualifying payment plan for 10 years, make 10 years of payment before it is forgiven. If the government comes back for any reason and changes this and states that they are no longer providing funding for this, you may or may not be able to take advantage of it. I just want to make sure this is very clear, because I don't want to give a presentation and then 11 years you come back and say, you know, I remember you doing a presentation and there's no funds available to pay this. So it is subject to appropriations, meaning it is subject to Congress having funds available for students to qualify for the program. And let me know if you have any questions on that. Okay, so what's on the horizon? What's new as far as federal student loans? Now, as a part of Biden's emergency action plan for economic recovery, he has proposed that Congress grants $10,000 to $50,000 in student loan forgiveness. It does have a income cap. You would have to fall within, and nothing has been decided. This is just information that is on the table. But if you qualify and you fall within, you're not making the certain amount that Congress set, then they will actually waive anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 of student loan forgiveness. Now, in addition, this is in addition to the student loan relief plan that is also proposed right now. And this is the Biden plan for education beyond high school, in which he offers $10,000 of undergraduate and graduate student debt relief for every year of national or community service for up to 5 years. So this forgiveness program is a little different than the programs that we have, but it would be extended to those working in schools, government, and any other nonprofit setting. You will be automatically enrolled. So it's not like you have to get on a plan and enroll for it. You're automatically enrolled. And the plan states that those with 5 years of prior national or community service will qualify as well. So stay tuned. This is what we're kind of watching to see what's going to come of this. So again, as we get the information here in the school, we notify our population of students. So you'll be notified on anything that comes once it comes up the pipe on these. Now, debt management. I cannot stress enough when I look at what our students are borrowing and what our students are leaving the school with, I cannot stress enough that you want to be on top of your borrowing. You want to make sure you know what you have, how much you borrowed, who your lender is. And you can stay on top of those things by doing any of these. We do have debt management tools. We have a DLOC, which is most dental students use, but any student can use it. We have an MLOC, medical students use that one, but again, any student can use it. It keeps up with all of your borrowing in one place. So you'll be able to see what you borrowed. It's in one electronic file. You can see what the impact of additional borrowing will do. You could choose a repayment strategy based on your own debt, and then based on any objectives that you may want to add. Now, the DLOC and the MLOC are tailored to those specific programs, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it. I do find that students outside of dentistry and medicine, they like iGrad. So if you haven't done iGrad yet, it's very similar. iGrad lets you do the exact same thing. All of your loan borrowing in one place. You can see the impact. It'll show you, let's say you borrowed $20,000. Well, what would my repayment look like if I took out $10,000 more? What would my repayment look like if I took out $40,000 more? So it lets you forecast the debt, and then it lets you see what repayment looks like. On top of that, it's going to actually give you the repayment plans, and you can see, okay, for standard plan, I'm going to pay X amount. If I do this income-based repayment, I'll be paying this amount. So it kind of shows you what repayment would look like for a period of time. Excellent program. iGrad also have games. So if you get bored at night and you want to play a financial game, you play a financial game. So it has games in there for you. Yeah, there you go. Calculators, videos. Yeah, this one is it's more fun, and it actually lets you track back. It'll challenge you. The system challenges you. Like you earn badges depending on how much of financial literacy you become in real time. So I hope with all of you, the main goal of all of this is to make sure that all of our students understand exactly what they have, what you borrowed, where the loans are, because ultimately you want to end up here. You want to end up where your student loans are paid in full, whether they're forgiven, whether you've paid them in full yourself, whether you've done some type of service, you want to end up where you get that note that's returned to you stamped, paid in full. Do you all have any other questions for me? No?
Feel
Okay.
free to unmute yourselves or you can use the chat box. Wanted to remind everyone that this is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube site, and the slides will be on the resources on the Office of Student Experience site as well. I think Justin put a link in for the evaluation. If you all could please fill that out before you leave tonight, and we'll stay around for a couple more minutes to see if there are questions. And want to say, Karen, thank you so very much. That was chock full of information and really helpful.
Good. And again, if you think of something, again, I understand sometimes when you're looking at the information, you get an aha moment, maybe, a few hours later. You can reach out to me. You also have, your financial aid representative at the school, and she'll be able to answer any questions at all about any of this. But just feel free to just reach out with any questions that you have. We'll make sure we get you on the right track.